might help if I was not muted. That was cute. Okay, so thanks for popping in today, guys. Today I'm going to be talking about contingent sales. There's lots of different contingencies that you can have in a home purchase. Um, a ton of contingencies that you will have. But the one that we're specifically talking about today is purchasing one home while you still own another home and how that kind of works. Um, you know, you don't have to sell your house to buy another house first and live in limbo. You, you know, don't have to carry two mortgages. There's a few different options. So just kind of talking about those and what those steps are and how to protect your family financially. So yeah. All right. So the first thing I do when I meet a client that has a current home and they want to purchase a new one is figuring out like what does that timeline look like for you? There's so many different options that you can go. Like the one thing I always say in real estate is there is no guarantees. There is no cookie cutter way to do anything. We have to be super creative in everything we do, right? From the way we find a home to the way we put an offer in, how we structure a deal. They're all different. No, I mean, I've had almost every single deal be a contingent offer, and none of them look the same. So, that being said, it really actually depends on your motivation. So, having a true, actual, like heart to heart talk about what does that mean for you? What are you looking for? Do you have that dream home picked out? Do you not really yet? Or are you looking? Kind of what does that look like? So yeah, we'll just go over that. And then let's see. I think pretty much let's just get right into it and not waste any time. I will make more detailed videos later, based on specific things that people want to know about. I really don't think we need to sit here and unpack this for an hour, if it's not really that relevant for everybody. So yeah, let's just dig right in. So, what is a contingent sale? Well, basically, you are purchasing one home while you already have one, but you're building in a contingency to that purchase offer that you don't have to purchase that second home if something happens and you're not able to sell your home. So it's pretty crazy. But I've had clients where they find a home they love online. We go check it out, and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to have this house. And it's like, okay, what does that look like? Do you want two mortgages? Do you want to write the strongest offer possible? Do you want to write a contingent offer and protect yourself? Because having two mortgages is going to, like, I mean, it'll destroy the happiness of that first forever home purchase where you think you just bought the house of your dreams only to find out that you're miserable because you're making two payments. So, figuring out what that looks like for you, what's your risk tolerance? My risk tolerance is probably lower than some other people's, yet I know it's a lot higher than a few people I know. So figuring out what that looks like for you. Are you willing to risk it? And if not, my go-to is I always say, hey, if you want to buy this house today, is your house market ready within the next 5 days? Like, are you ready for me to have a photographer come over in 2 or 3 days? And if you are, hang on here. Let's see. Sorry about that. So if you're ready to have a photographer come over in the next 2 days and we are market ready, let's do it. Let's put that offer in right now. We can build that contingency in there. And if your house is market ready within 5 days, so we can come in, make sure everything is properly ready for photos. We can schedule a photographer, get the listings manager, which that would be me right now, to prep your listing paperwork wise for the market, get that all set up, and uh, everything can be ready in that 5 days. Well, we can actually now go make a contingent offer, saying that your house will actually be placed on the market within 5 days. Now, that agent on the receiving end is probably going to ask you for information about your house, like what the condition is. They might even ask for photos to see, um, because they're going to get the address on the offer because we have a contingency built in. So there's a whole form for it. And that just protects your rights. Now, if you aren't able to sell, that's a whole new can of worms. But so if you're ready in 5 days, we can go ahead and put in a contingent offer. Now, depending on how strong your market is, what our pricing strategy is, what the other agent knows about the market, those are all things that are going to affect the ability to sell that home. Um, and as an agent myself that submits contingent offers quite often, what I like to do is complete a market analysis, which I do with every single client, every home we sell. And we determine average days on market for comparable homes just like yours to see what does it look like. Is it really feasible that you're going to be selling within a week? Or are you going to be selling in 90 days? Or do we not know because the market's in such an ebb and flow state right now that we really can't guarantee anything, but we're asking them to take their house off the market for like 45 days to hold on and wait for us? Um, or are we making it an offer where if they get a better offer until we go into contract on your house, do they get to bump you out if they get a better offer that's not contingent? Um, so yeah, it's a quite a bit to unpack there. Um, but basically, if you're ready to go within 5 days, we can get you in there with a contingent offer. If you're not ready, then we really can't make an offer. If you're going to make a contingent offer, you have to be able to go to market within 5 days. And if you are, sorry about that, guys. Um, okay, so let's see here. We just got interrupted by my sweet little 8-year-old, who's still not used to me recording these videos, and I surely either. I get really nervous. So yeah, sorry if I ramble at times or repeat myself. I just really want to be thorough and give you guys a good overview. So, anyways, if you're ready to go to market within 5 days, we can present that offer. Now, this is also making sure that you're pre-approved, right? So, have you met with a lender yet? Have we done a home valuation and determined what we think your house is really worth? And then what's your loan on your home? How much equity do you have? How much of that money are you using to put down for your new purchase? So those things all really factor into the strength of your contingent offer. Um, and understanding all of those little moving pieces and metrics is really, I think, what makes your contingent offer stronger. Um, it could even be stronger than someone's non-contingent offer because if you have a guaranteed equity in your home, you have a great market where you're at, say, a lot of first time home buyers right now, those houses have been moving pretty quickly. So if you have, let's say, $400,000 worth of equities that you're going to put all into this new purchase, and someone else is coming in that's going to have to finance the whole thing, um, and with some like special financing contingencies, well, your offer might actually be better because you have a higher down payment. Your house is probably going to sell super fast. It's in good condition. So those are all just things to think about. So, anyways, but most people, they put in a contingent offer to avoid carrying two mortgages. Usually when they're going to be upgrading from their first time house. Um, we also see this a lot with people that are downsizing. So if you had your family and you've been living in your home for the last 30 years, kids are all gone, you either don't have grandkids or don't want the space for them to stay over all the time, whatever it may be. And downsizing property, that's a big one. Um, Way too much yard or property to maintain by yourself anymore, and you don't want to hire like help to come in and help you maintain that. That's huge. You don't want to waste your life mowing a couple acres. Why? Downsize. Um, so those are also other options to downsize, and downsizing, moving up, or even maybe more of a lateral move in a better neighborhood or one that fits your needs more, right? Your kids change schools, y- all the things. There's so many options, but um, and then another thing is like people want a contingent offer because they want to reduce the stress of like, wow, am I going to end up homeless in between these purchases? Am I going to be staying with family? Am I going to have to rent an apartment? What does that look like? Um, so if you really just kind of think about those things, one thing that I would say is a lot of people will tell you that contingent offers don't get accepted. Bogus. Absolutely bogus. I've done 7 of them in the last year. So if you can literally 7 couples that have moved from one house to another with a contingent offer, that's insane. Um, so, and for one agent to do that many, and they were all successful. Did we have a couple of failed contingent offers in the meantime? Absolutely. But did we have success? Yes, 100%. So, obviously, there's going to be some patience involved. Not everybody's going to accept a contingent offer, but not everyone's going to reject one either. So, just keeping that in mind, everything is fluid in real estate. So, and for the people that say it's too complicated, no. Um, if you can build Legos and go step by step, you can you can process a contingent offer. You just have to be comfortable with knowing all the moving pieces, and you have to be diligently organized. You have to know what you're doing. You have to follow it step by step. You cannot skip a beat. You cannot miss a deadline. You have to be aggressive in your pricing strategies. You have to be aggressive in your timelines. Everything. You have to aggressively get to market fast enough, be prepared, get your pre approval in place. If you can, be completely underwritten for a deal based on your equity position on your current home. Those are all things that are going to super like expedite the process. That's going to help you so much. Um, so, I mean, all those other myths, I take them with a grain of salt. If you talk to a doctor, they're going to tell you something is simple. If you talk to a med school student, they're going to think it's so hard. You're going to talk to someone that hasn't even been to school yet, and they're going to be like, that's not even possible. So it depends on who you talk to. Make sure you're talking to someone that actually understands the ins and outs of these. So it it's not such a daunting, crazy thing that seems impossible, I guess. So yeah, getting your house market ready. So if you're thinking that you're ready to sell your house and you're ready to move up or move down, whichever, upsizing, downsizing, however that be, you just want that pool, right? um, it just depends. So getting your house market ready, that means decluttering, depersonalizing your house. I have a printout that I can send you guys after this that I give to my clients when we're preparing to go to market. So if you want to, you know, remove all that like visual stimulation from your home that someone else, it blocks them from being able to picture themselves living in that house, right? You want them to be able to kind of like envision themselves and like what it looks like. Doesn't mean empty out your house at all. You still want to live there, right? So just downsizing your clutter is probably the biggest thing. Visual clutter can be so overstimulating for a lot of people. Even behind me, like I've got a lot going on here, so that might be too much for some people. So then And then back to, like I said, with a full lender pre-approval, right? Seeing if you can get underwritten for that. That just means that they're going to do your work. Background checks on like your employment. They're going to verify funds that you have available. They're going to check your credit. They're going to do all those things that they would do in normal underwriting. So it's not just a pre-approval letter. It's a stronger version of a pre-approval letter, um, and so that's amazing. Also, speaking of pre-approvals, do not go buy a new car. Do not get a Lowe's or Home Depot credit card because you want to buy new appliances when you move in. Those are all things that are going to take um, that pre-approval process. So do not do any big purchases. I would say anything over $500. Probably talk to your lender, ask your agent, just make sure. Anything to do with changing your credit history, don't touch it. Um, Talk to your lender first, get their feedback. Um, it could be actually something that hurts you. What if you pay off a long time credit card that was giving you an extra 10 years of credit history? You paid off, and now your credit history is only 10 years old. Well, what does that do for your pre approval? Or what does that do for your interest rate? Because your interest rate is also dependent on your credit score. So, keeping those things in mind when you're working through the process is super big. And then you're going to have to talk about a pricing strategy. So I have some clients that found their dream home, and it was like, okay, wow, we literally have to move fast. We want this house. So we went over a whole strategy of how to prep their home, how to get it ready for market, hurried up scheduled photography, like literally moving trailers on photography day. It was wild. And we were there, like, we had to stand outside while they were taking photos of the property, moving things, like, it was hilarious. I was like, "Hey, by the way, if you're looking for your butter later, I stuck it in your microwave," because I didn't want their butter dish in their pictures of their kitchen. So the random little things like that, which is making sure your house is completely ready. And then, like, for them, they wanted this new house, so it'd been sitting on the market for a while. We were market ready, put in a contingent offer, and they wouldn't accept it. So that was like, oh gosh, like what do we do, right? How do we make this happen? My clients weren't ready to go non contingent, but they also weren't ready to lose this house. So, in that specific situation, we actually ended up pricing their home a little bit more competitively. We offered less on the house, ended up going non contingent so we could secure the property. I marketed like crazy during the listing process. So while we were getting photo ready, I was posting videos. I was at the lake down the street, social media videos talking about this house that I have coming up on the market and these great clients that I have. And what that ended up doing was there was another agent in town that saw all the information on this house and had a buyer that was ready to buy, hadn't even seen the house yet, and they were ready to be the first people in the door. Sure enough, we priced competitively, got this guy in to see the property. He came back with his fiance, and we were pending and in contract in less than 24 hours. Like, what? Um, so, this was also a client that this other agent, we knew that this guy was already pre approved. Everything was lined up, and he, had everything in place because he also was fully prepared because he had lost out on a house before that. So he was super motivated. So my clients got full asking price for their house, and we were able to simultaneously close. So what happened is we were actually able to close on their current residence, negotiate a 5-day rent back where they got to stay in their house after closing, and then closed on their new house a day later so we could use the funds from the sale of their home to put down on the new purchase, and they didn't even have to move and be homeless for a couple of days. So it was a super cool situation. It was amazing, incredible clients. incredible situation, great agent to work with. I mean, for all the things, all the moving pieces, right? So, and then you've got to get through inspection periods for both houses. You've got to get through all the financing contingencies. You've got to get through everything. So it's absolutely incredible. Now, had we not sold their house and been able to close in that tight of a window where they could have used that purchase money, moving forward, or for that initial purchase time frame, what we could have done is just purchased the home with all financing, and then they call recasting the mortgage once they sold. And then so that would the lender would then take that money, add that huge down payment to the loan, and then recalculate what their payments and everything would be. So it's a little bit more, I guess, involved, but it's very possible and super simple to do once you have everything in place. So not a big deal, but the fact that we were able to avoid all that, get them to market and get them sold and simultaneously closing was absolutely incredible. Um, And they actually just messaged me the other day and said that they were having their first holiday season in their dream home. So super happy about that. It's incredible to see those success stories where clients are actually super happy in their like living. Yeah, I just closed on our dream home in June. So all the feels. I know exactly what they're going through right now. Those first happy moments in their new home, their forever house. So it's pretty cool. Okay. So there's so many other options too. Um, you could do a bridge loan. You can do, I talked about rent backs where, you negotiate with them where you're going to live in your house for another week after you close. So you get the money, you're paid for your house, but then you basically rent it from them for a week. There's a bunch of different options. I've seen people that do a no cost rent back. I've seen people where they charge them the cost of the mortgage for those few days. And I've seen people where they're like, hey, all you need to do is get a homeowner's insurance policy or a renter's policy with the new homeowner as the beneficiary, and they let them do that as well. So there's quite a few options there that we could unpack in a different video and not mucky this one up a little bit. There's also earnest money with every purchase. You're doing an earnest money deposit, usually around 1% of the purchase price. So some people will say, hey, if you will take your house off the market for this 3 weeks while we're, pending and not bump us out if a better offer comes along. So then that makes it a non-bumpable contingent offer. I will release my earnest money. So what that means is if you're in a traditional contingent offer and you don't meet those contingency deadlines, right? Which are all kind of fluid. Usually it's about 3 weeks, or that's what we always ask for at least 3 weeks with hopefully 45 days out. So, like 2 or 3 weeks. But, anyways, so if you don't meet those deadlines, it's not that you did anything wrong. It's just that your house wasn't able to sell in time. So you're able to actually get your earnest money back. Um, Now, if you are really, really serious about a house and the sellers are really hesitant, what you can do is you can also say, hey, I am super motivated. I'm, like super committed to doing this. I don't want your house to go back on the market. I absolutely want to buy it and live here forever. What would you think about taking my contingent offer if we make our earnest money non-refundable? Money is a good motivator for a lot of people, right? How many people are going to say, oh, yeah, no, I won't take a few extra $1,000 when my house is going to be on the market anyways, right? So there's different ways, and your agent should be able to talk to you about all the different ways to make that a possibility, right? Then there's the other option where it's like, okay, what if um, what if your risk tolerance is a little bit lower? Do you just like find a backup living situation, right? If your house sells and you don't want to wait for the perfect contingent time, well, yeah, you can actually sell your house and live somewhere else, right? Have a rental set up, you know, you have friends, family that has extra space, whatever it may be, finding an alternate situation. So, yeah, lots of moving pieces, but like I said, it's actually pretty simple. We could really break it down into really small, short, linear, you know, timeline of what step by step process there is. You don't need to know all the like ins and outs, the nitty gritty details. That's something that your agent generally should be obviously managing. And I have a super detailed checklist and like timeline. And I also have like the bird's eye view. So it's like, hey, this is, when you're going over it and discussing what's a contingent sale, what are all the moving pieces, I'm going to go through everything with you and tell you, then I'm going to give you the simplified one, right? So if you ever have questions, obviously call me. If you just kind of want to glance at your paperwork, hey, here's this quick little PDF printout, shows everything step by step details. You know exactly where we're at in the process. And I'm also going to update you the entire time. So my transaction coordinator will actually send out calendar invites for all of our deadlines throughout the process. So it helps us all stay on the same page, keeps us on track. You're going to know when that earnest money is due because it's going to pop up. Obviously, I'm going to be in contact with you the whole time too. But it's easy to forget things, right? We're all busy. You're packing, you're getting ready to move. You're excited because you just put an offer in on a house, right? Oh my gosh, all the things. Um, if you're like me, you're already daydreaming about decorating your new house too. So there's so many things. You don't want that to like derail, like, oh no, all of a sudden we're in breach of contract because you forgot to deposit your earnest money, but it's literally a check sitting in your wallet that you just forgot to get to the escrow company. So it's just kind of something that keeps us all connected and on the same page, which is kind of nice. Or I think it's incredibly nice because you don't ever want to skip a step. So, um, gosh, let's see. What sellers are kind of looking for? So obviously, a seller that's going to be taking their house off the market is going to want to know all those details I've kind of already gone over, right? How market ready is your house? Is your yard look like a dump, or do you have like A plus curb appeal? What does that look like, right? And obviously, depending on neighborhood, depending on your house, and then depending on what your asking price is going to all factor into that because you obviously don't need to make your house the nicest house on the block if you're going to be selling it for a lower sale price, right? Knowing what your house is worth. And then part of my job is when I come in and I do that like initial listing consultation with you, we talk about your house. We determine what the current market is, what the current condition of your house is, what does that market value, and then what's your resale value. So what should we do, if anything, to bring your house up? I have a client right now that is on the market, and I went in, they'd already done some painting, she'd already moved most of the furniture out of the house. All I literally said was just paint that one pink bedroom. That's it. Like, that's the biggest barrier I think you're going to see is people are going to be like, oh gosh, I got to come in and paint this pink bedroom, right? Paint it white like the rest of the house. Don't do anything else because anyone else is going to want to come in and update anything that they find in here because there's nothing that was in bad condition, right? So making sure that any updates that you're doing to the house right now, what does that pencil out for in value? Does it make sense? Do you really want to redo the whole floors? Or do you want to just kind of bake that into your pricing that you are either going to give them a concession for flooring, or is it just not their style and they can change it themselves because it's in good condition? So it shouldn't matter to you. You're selling them a quality house, not the house of their dreams, right? That's up to them to personalize it because what's personalized for one person is not going to be personalized for another. And do you really want to pay for flooring twice when you put the wrong color in and they're like, oh, I want a credit for flooring? No. So making sure that we understand those values and what those repairs are doing for your value is going to be super important too in pricing properly, because you're obviously going to want to recoup some of that repair value. And if it doesn't pencil out, don't do it. So we always do that. Have that conversation. It's pretty important. I think it's a detrimental conversation to have. Um, Not always easy, but necessary. Let's see here. My gosh, I think clean paperwork is going to be super important for a seller to see that your agent actually understands what contingent offers are, understands what the stakes are in getting this deal done, right? You want it done timely, efficiently, and clean. Nobody wants headaches. Nobody wants to clean up after somebody else. Nobody wants to chase down answers. It's horrific. Um, so making sure that everything is presented clear, concise, clean, detailed. We know what we're doing. We're moving in the right direction. Um, and then being realistic about the process, right? So if you say we do a review of your market right now and what your house is, usually takes, let's say, average days on market are around 7 days. So say you find a house, put in a contingent offer, your house goes on the market 5 days later. 7 days later, you go pending. It's now been 12 days. Once your house is pending, we give the sellers of your new purchase a notice. Then we start the inspections. Now, you can start the inspections prior to that. However, I always advise my clients to wait, depending on the situation. Obviously, very different situations, right? I do have some clients that I've advised to do the inspection first, um, right after they make the right after the offer is accepted. Because if there's anything actually really like a material defect in the property that we can't negotiate a repair on, they're not going to move in. They're not going to make that purchase. And now all of a sudden their house is in contract and they're going to have to back out of that deal because this purchase isn't going to work. And they have a very small particular buy box, right? So we don't know how long it's going to be before another house is on the market that matches their needs, which is a whole nother set of complications if you're not being mindful of that, right? Everything can work out properly if you have all the details and you know what moving pieces there are. Kind of like chess, right? Each piece can make a different move, but you have to know what those moves are. So just trying to make the best decisions and advise clients properly, right? So, gosh, I'm talking a lot. Oh my goodness. So making sure, and then so you've got that inspection. Say everything's great with the inspection with the new property. Everything's great with the inspection for your property. Each property has a 10-day inspection, time frame, so that 12th day. Well, that 10-day inspection period is part of usually what would be a 30-day close, right? So, I mean, say best case scenario, you're looking at if things went really, really great, you could be looking at a 45-day close. And that's how, if your house is not market ready, and we need that full 5 days to get you ready and get photos done. Now, I also have clients that right now do have a very specific buy box and their house is market ready. We've already done listing photos. We've done everything. However, they will not put their house on the market until they find a replacement home. Okay, why? Very specific. They're not going to move again. This is hopefully, if they want, the last home that they ever have to purchase. They're raising their kids in this house, right? They do not want to uproot their lives and have a bunch of people coming in for showings because they're in that first time home buyer market. So their house is likely to sell faster than other homes. They're in a great neighborhood. What's going to happen if they sell their house and they have to keep stopping contingent sales because they can't find a house they like? And quite frankly, we have been looking, and right now we haven't seen any that they like. And let's see, today's the 28th. It's been about a month and there's nothing on the market. So right now we're doing a whole other offensive strategy for finding them a house, which is a different day, different video for that one. Yeah. Anyways, so let's see. Getting all that done. But like I was talking about my other clients, like we had put an offer in and we closed within 30 days on two properties, right? We closed their house and we closed their replacement property. So some of those things just kind of pencil out the way they're, as fast as possible. And then there's, 45 days. There's some that take 60 days because you've got to wait for the one house to close and then start the process for the next one. So just kind of figuring out what that looks like. And if you do need like a longer rent back, like is the person purchasing your house so in love with the house that they're willing to wait an extra 30 days? Like, and that's where a lot of negotiations come into. You have to be really good at speaking with the other party. So your agent has to talk to the other agent. Understand that. Like, what are their motivations? What are your motivations? Where does it make sense to concede some things or ask for more things? So getting that all dialed in and knowing that ahead of time is really actually like it's so important to understand what that your yeses, your nos, your risk tolerance ahead of time because it helps you make those answers and those decisions so much faster. And sometimes if you give people too much time to think, it'll kill the deal. So having that sense of urgency is pretty great to move things faster. And once you're in contract, that's kind of like, okay, we're here, we're in it, our decisions were made. Um, and then you're going to feel a lot better about your decisions if you've already thought about them, right? I know I do. So let's see. Oh gosh. So that's kind of the time frame, like what the market's looking at. And then understanding, your house is market ready, you have all those things. Sorry, my notes are falling down just so I don't sit here and ramble for too long because that's very easy for me to do. Um, and so just figuring out those timelines. What does that look like for you? What's your ideal situation? What do you want to happen? Um, how committed are you to moving, right? That risk tolerance again is like so big. You know, do you want to sell your house and move on, or are you in not that big of a hurry because you want to have the house of your dreams? So just figuring those things out. But if you would like that pre-photography, pre-listing checklist that I talked about, let me know the decluttering. And if you would like my step-by-step, like the overview of what a contingent sale is like, absolutely reach out or, just comment contingent form below and I'll get that over to you guys. You can always reach me on like Instagram or, I mean, heck, my phone number's out there, everything. So just reach out to me if you have questions about it. If, if you want to know a rough estimate of what your house is worth, but just so you can think about it, I absolutely understand that. I have a lot of people that reach out and they're like, hey, just curious kind of what my home's worth and then decide if I'm even wanting to sell or not, right? Because if you don't have a ton of equity, do you really want to sell? Like, I personally, if you don't have more than like 30, I mean, 30 to $50,000 in equity, you should probably just wait. Um, and then you don't know what the market's doing either. So kind of just really figuring out what's your end number, what are your end goals, why are you wanting to move, all those things. So yeah, anyways, if you have any questions, if you want any of those handouts, let me know and I will send those over to you. As always, I hope you guys have a great day and I will talk to you soon.